feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's fun.
Open wide for some soccer!
I don't care what you think about what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the Cowboys.
Call this college rule!
Welcome back, sports fans. We are the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm Chris. This is Dom. We're here talking sports. Real quick, please give our YouTube channel a subscribe, a like, a comment, whatever you want, you know?
A couple of comics just talking sports, having a good time. So, yeah, please jump in on this right now because we got a lot of quality content, and we're also on Spotify video, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, so check us out wherever you enjoy your podcast. Follow us on Instagram. Who are we talking today?
We're back on the baseball diamond, Chris, with arguably the greatest right-handed hitter, overall hitter, and best plate discipline probably of his era.
Well, in this era of roids, we see guys
didn't need any.
We saw guys without plate discipline, and he flat out didn't use the performance enhancing and had some great walk numbers.
Oh, just getting on base, he's a statistician's wet dream. But the problem is he kind of gets lost in the shuffle because he wasn't showing up to the plate with a Mardi Gras head and raisinets. You're out.
Yeah, no shit.
So Frank Thomas, we're talking
Frank Thomas, the
White
big
Sox
hurt.
Yeah, best. It's sad that nickname isn't used in porno.
Oh my God, some things are wasted. That thing
big
was
hurt. But no, Frank Edward Thomas Jr., born May 27th, 1968 in Columbus, Georgia. Born in Columbus, Georgia. Had 5 other siblings. His mom worked at the mill. His dad worked at a bail bonds office, which I thought was pretty interesting. Had kind of some tragedy as a child. In 1977, his youngest sister Pamela ends up dying of leukemia, and that was something that one of the charities that he still keeps up with today to try and find a cure for it. But great at all sports growing up, basically like everyone else we discuss.
Well, it's one of these things where they kind of can pick their path, and we see him excelling at baseball and football.
Even basketball, too.
And even in basketball, which he was a power forward.
Well, obviously, you're 6'5" and 250 pounds.
He's got that Barkley body.
He's got that Barkley body and very Bo Jackson-y, if you think about it. And we'll discuss that.
That's a good connection.
Going to college as a dual sport athlete. As a senior, he hit .440 in high school. He was all-state. He was an all-state tight end in football, which he eventually played in college. And power forward on the basketball team. But in the 1986 draft, because with baseball you don't have to go to college, nobody picks him. Not a single team, not a single Major League Baseball team, even in like the Mike Piazza round, said, this large individual who can hit for average and power.
Yeah.
We don't have a spot for him. And his dad had talked about how outside of his sister dying, that was probably one of the worst days of his life. So,
well, he said he was just like, I saw guys that I played with get drafted, and I was just like, why would they get this without me? Because he really was a dominant player in that senior year, and you were just like, what were they thinking?
Yeah, like what could a 30th round pick, that's totally worth it. If everybody's passing on this guy, it's not like he stabbed someone.
No, it's crazy.
But he goes to Auburn in Alabama on a football scholarship.
Yeah.
So going almost that Bo Jackson route there for the Auburn Tigers. His football career doesn't really pan out as well as he would hope, though.
Freshman season.
Yeah, freshman season. He gets all sorts of lingering injuries, barely played. I think he played in like 3 games for Auburn.
Yep.
But it's on the baseball diamond where he is a walk-on, and he definitely earns his keep.
Well, I thought that was kind of interesting because this freshman year, it really is this moment in his life where he was just like, yeah, football's kind of not working out for me. Baseball is. He really found his home.
Yeah, and because you have so many football scholarships, you don't have to use one on him for baseball. He's just a walk-on, and his head coach, Hal Baird, said they loved him. He was fun to be around, always smiling, always bright-eyed. So he was a great teammate.
Yes, that was something that I loved when you were talking about teammates throughout. It was just like, no. He was happy to play baseball every day, and you were just like, God, I love that.
Not getting physically punished like he would on the gridiron.
Yeah.
But as a freshman, completely just goes berserk, hits .359, and led the team in RBIs, which is, holy crap, that's amazing. 1987, he plays in the Pan Am games, but he had to leave the team early so he could go to football practice because that's how he's getting his college paid for, unfortunately. But he plays in the 1988 Cape Cod League, which is like a summer league for guys that are like projected to be very high draft picks, and absolutely dominates up there. He's actually in their league's Hall of Fame, part of their inaugural class. His junior season, he hits .403. He's basically a right-handed Ted Williams.
Yeah, he really is one of the best hitters of his era. It's crazy.
He has 19 homers, 19 doubles. It says he slugs .801. That's ridiculous. So his 49 homers for Auburn in his career were a school record. And 3 years after the 86 draft, he is no longer in danger of not being drafted. It's how high will he get picked?
Exactly.
Essentially.
Now they're finally like, oh my God, did you see this kid? Because he really was a huge power hitter coming out of Auburn.
Yeah, and he ends up falling to the 7th pick in the Chicago White Sox. If you go back and look at that draft and you go, there were 6 people taken ahead of this guy, and none of them really particularly panned out. So the White Sox get extremely lucky. In 1990, leading into that season, there's even talk that he could make the big league club, and he doesn't end up, making it out of spring training, but that doesn't prevent the White Sox from calling him up that year. And my God, is he just gangbusters from the start?
Well, I always think about like why were people passing on him even back in like high school, but there was kind of this talk that he wasn't going to be able to hit like that in the majors. Like against major league pitchers, we're going to see him drop off like you wouldn't believe. And this is when right away he shows you, it's just like, no, this is where I'm supposed to be. And you're just like, hell yeah.
He logs almost 200 at bats because he comes up in August of 1990.
Yep.
So, and this is a transitional period for the White Sox. They're finally starting to bring up their younger players. He hits .330. He hits .330. Like, and a .983 OPS. So obviously he's doing something correct.
Yep.
And, there's still those detractors leading into 91, because now he's the everyday first baseman designated hitter. People are like, well, they've never seen him before, but, they'll get the book on him and everything like that. And doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen.
Well, he can't hit a breaking ball. So,
Eddie, throw him a few breaking balls. He didn't need Joe Boo.
You know what I say? I say, fuck you, Joe Boo.
I do it myself. But 1991, he finishes 3rd in the MVP voting, leads the league in walks, on-base percentage, OPS, hits .318 with 31 doubles, 32 home runs, and 107 RBIs, and the Silver Slugger. That's ridiculous. There's a great story. If you watch, they're not necessarily highlights, but he was a very large man, and in the on-deck circle, instead of putting donuts on his bat like a normal person would, a mere mortal would, he would swing rebar from Old Comiskey Park. He just, I guess, passed by after they, had demolished Old Comiskey Park, said, oh, this will get my timing right.
Felt right in his hands. I bet it was extremely intimidating, too. It's kind of ridiculous when you look over, you're like, is that guy swinging rebar? Like, what's happening here?
And this is an era of MLB where a lot of people weren't in tip-top physical condition. So that had to be he's like Black Paul Bunyan. That's the best way to describe him.
Seriously, because he was physically bigger than a lot of, like, pretty much everybody out there, especially Barry Bonds in this year. Not like 3 years from now.
Yeah.
But I'm saying this year.
Barry Bonds still looked like a person.
Yes, just a regular pirate.
Just a good athlete. But 92, he leads the league in doubles, walks, has a .439 on-base percentage. So, I mean, this is like, you see guys like an Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera. This is like, those are like the 2.0 versions of Frank Thomas.
Yes.
And what he brought to the table as far as his ability to not only get on base, but hit for high average and hit for power.
Well, it's kind of crazy to think that every single, or almost every other time he comes up, he's going to get on base.
Yeah.
Like, it's quite a feat, like you were saying, and he hits for power. So he's driving in runs.
Yeah, and he's good for at least 70, 80 extra base hits a season.
Yep.
Like, definitely not hitting those triples because speed really isn't the name of the game for him. But, yeah, 323 batting average in 92. And then in 93, and the White Sox are starting to put together a pretty good team around him, like a Robin Ventura and things like that. Jack McDowell, I think, wins the Cy Young here in 93 as well. They finished 94 and 68. They win the American League West, and Frank wins an MVP for the White Sox. He makes his first All-Star team. Bo Jackson is also on this White Sox team.
Yep, a couple of Auburn gentlemen, which they kind of debate as to who's the best Auburn player of all time, which, I mean...
One is for football, the other's for baseball.
I was going to say, who knows?
But 41 dingers, 128 RBIs, 112 walks.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
That's just insane. And then over 1,000 OPS. They make the ALCS against the Blue Jays. Unfortunately, this is when the Blue Jays are going back-to-back. But Frank, in a 6-game series, has 10 walks, hits .353 with a homer and 5 RBIs. And in this series... Toronto is basically just instructed to pitch around him.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And there was talk, this is before Bonds started taking steroids, that if you were going to intentionally walk anyone with the bases loaded, it was Frank Thomas.
Yep.
Because he could hurt you, and his nickname was the Big Hurt.
And this is the season where he got that nickname, because it was kind of like that, where it's just like when he comes to the plate, he could hurt you.
What was it? The announcer, the radio guy, Ken Hawk Harrelson, came up with the nickname after watching one of his home runs. He was like, he hurt that ball.
Yep.
Because when he made solid contact, it just made a different sound off the bat because of how strong and powerful he was. So even though 93 ends in postseason defeat, 94, the White Sox are rolling right along. They end up having the best record in the newly formed AL Central. And Frank has another MVP season.
Well, this is really when he was the best hitter. I don't think anybody can deny it. If you look at his stats from, I think it's like 92 to 97, it's insane.
Yeah, like if that was just his whole baseball career, he would be probably in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Still. This season, he leads the league in runs, walks, has a almost 500 on-base percentage.
So every other time, that's the thing that it blows my mind, where you're just like, he hurts teams.
Yeah, he just hurts them. A 353 batting average, 1,200 plus OPS. That's ridiculous. And the talk was, because this is 1994, he's in like the top 3 of the Triple Crown categories. Like, there were people talking about, we have not seen a right-handed power hitter with this type of skill set since Jimmy Fox was hitting dingers.
Yep.
So, unfortunately, because this is 1994,
it's a short season.
There is a labor dispute, and it doesn't finish.
No.
Mm-mm.
Which it's always sad when you look at these guys really hitting their stride, and you can't get their shit together. I hate that with baseball. Over their strikes, you're just like, come on, just get your shit together.
Well, that's why they're always the strongest union. Cap, I'm not a pro-union guy. And you can't say by the Cleveland Cavaliers. 95, again, leading the league in walks, sacrifice flies, and also intentional walks with 29. So hits 308 with 40 home runs and 111 RBIs. But this is when Chicago starts to kind of become a 500 ball club and not at the top of the AL Central. And it coincides with Cleveland kicking the crap out of everybody. 96 leads the league with intentional walks again, hits 349 with 40 homers again and 136 RBIs. So he's pretty much the whole team at this juncture.
I was going to say, this is where the team kind of gets dismantled, and they're just kind of like, yeah, but isn't it cool to watch Frank?
Isn't it great to watch him hurt things?
Yeah. And it kind of sucks when that happens with ball clubs where they're like, we could build around this guy. We're just not.
We're comfortable with the TV revenue and fans recognizing one person.
Yes.
And finishing with 80 to 82 wins a season. 97, they get Albert Bell from Cleveland in a very big money deal. So you're thinking, hey, Frank's got some protection in the lineup, and all he does is win an AL batting title. It's 347. Not a career high, but still pretty darn impressive. Leads the league again in on-base percentage. Has an over 1,000 OPS. He has 35 doubles and 35 home runs.
You're right about the triples. He was not laying down some triples, but he was definitely a double machine.
Yeah, double machine, because if it's not going over the fence, it's hitting the fence.
And he's not legging out a triple.
No. That's not his game, Chris.
No, it's just
Speed is not the name of his game.
Oh, the name of the game is definitely speed.
Power by 98. This is kind of when his prime is over, but he's 30 years old, because if you're not taking steroids, once you enter your 30s, there's a productivity decline.
Well, let's talk about this, because he has actually come out a lot talking about performance-enhancing drugs, and he said he took it early in his career.
But he was taking steroids.
Greenies.
Yeah, he was.
And this is kind of like the this is the tail end of greenies.
But this is when greenies are still fine.
Yeah, no, this is when they're still legal and prescribed, and they're in the clubhouse, and they're just like, here you go.
Hey, you're on acid. Go pitch a no-hitter, Doc
There's
Ellis.
two kinds of coffee, caffeinated and greenies. But he said that he felt like it's kind of ruining the game, and he felt like it was taking away from guys, especially like him, where it was like he should have been known as this power hitter above these other guys.
I think he was on Dan Patrick probably like 5-10 years ago, and they had asked him about steroids. He's like, if I was on the juice, I'd have hit 800 career home runs.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, yeah, and he was in 94 in that home run race to break Roger Maris's then record. So, I mean, but 98 hits 265, 29 homers and 109 RBIs. That's nothing to sneeze at for an age 30 season.
I was going to say, I think this is his first not 30 home run season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
99 hits 305, 36 doubles, 15 home runs, though, and 77 RBIs. And again, the team is just middling.
Yep.
They're just middling kind of around him. He's kind of lost in the shuffle after the big home run race of 98. And not an afterthought, but you're just like, well, we're starting to maybe see the decline of his career.
Yes, definitely.
But then 2000 comes. The team finishes 95 and 67 and wins the AL Central. He finishes number 2 in the MVP race, wins a Silver Slugger, and he has a career-high 191 hits on a career-high 115 runs and a career-high 143 RBIs.
So he shows he could still do it.
43 dingers this season and a 325 batting average. American League Comeback Player of the Year, but just as in 93, they end up losing in the postseason. They're swept by the Mariners, the 2000 Mariners, not the 2001 installment. Go listen to that episode.
Yep.
It's very good. 2001, everything kind of falls apart, not only on the field but off the field. His dad dies. Actually, the same week, he tears his right tricep.
Yeah, it's such a weird.
And that's an injury as far as you see it more often in the NFL with offensive linemen, but if you tear any of your arm muscles, that can be very recurring and really put a damper on your career. He said he even referred to it as the worst week of his life.
Oh, I'm sure.
Played in only 20 games. In 2002, he comes back and hits 29 homers and has 82 RBIs. Unfortunately, the average is kind of declining. His plate discipline is good, but just like anybody in their mid-30s, it's bound to decline.
Well, I thought it was surprising that he was putting up those numbers post-30s, because he really did have years that it faltered, but when he was hitting, it was really good. And the White Sox, you can see, are kind of starting to become a better team. That was what was kind of crazy.
Yes,
was
they
like,
started bringing in the Paul Konerkos and Maglio Ordonez's and guys like that onto the team just as he's entering the twilight.
Yes.
It's like, oh, now you help me.
Yes, exactly. Now we're building a really good team. Do you like it, Frank? He's just like, I'm injured again.
I am old and I am hurt. Thanks, dicks.
Thank you.
2003, 42 homers, 105 RBIs, another 100-walk season. That was basically the end for him.
Yep.
In 2004 and 2005, he's limited to only 108 games, 30 home runs and 75 RBIs. But unfortunately, in 2005, everything comes together for this team. And by that, I mean they finish first in their division. They roll through the Red Sox in the ALDS. They manage to beat the Angels in the ALCS and then sweep the Astros in the World Series because they don't have trash cans.
And they end up giving Frank a ring, but it's got to feel...
It's like the Elgin Baylor ring,
yes,
almost.
I was just going to say that. Good. It's got to feel like... Why didn't we do this? No, it's not hollow because he built kind of this thing going forward. But it was like, why weren't we doing this like 5 years ago? You guys know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, like, thanks, guy. It's more of a congratulations on your service, almost. You know, like you made us relevant again.
He said he was extremely proud of the team because he was a White Sox forever. They brought him out, I believe, in one of the games, and he threw out
Game 1 in Boston. Yeah,
and he said he felt so much love from the fans, which is great. But I felt like he should have had a little bit more love from the organization.
Well, one of the things he had talked about, because the manager at the time was Ozzie Guillen, somebody he played with in the early 90s and throughout the 90s for the White Sox.
Yep.
But has some issues with general manager Kenny Williams and owner Jerry Reinsdorf, who you can watch in the Last Dance documentary, trying to impugn the dignity of Phil Jackson. But never got along with Williams, had issues with Reinsdorf, and they don't choose to trade him. They basically release him and get rid of him. They're just like, hey, you got your ring. Bye.
Yeah, they essentially give him a ring and cut him, which is pretty wild to think of the service that he gave this club, and they kind of, this is what it was, you know?
Well, he left the White Sox as their career leader in the following categories: runs scored, home runs, doubles, RBIs, extra base hits, walks, total bases, slugging, and on-base percentage. So basically the greatest player in White Sox history.
Without a doubt. That's the thing.
I mean, and mind you, this was a franchise before winning in 2005, had not won a World Series in 88 years. Listen to our Black Sox episode. That's a good one. See, I'm dropping them in, Chris.
Dropping them in.
Dropping them all in. Get those views up. In January 2006, he signs a one-year, $500,000 deal with the Moneyball A's.
Yeah.
Bringing him in as a veteran bat on the cheap, much as Billy Beane likes to work. Although he struggles at the beginning of the season, he has almost a career renaissance, and I think it kind of keeps him going to pass some of baseball's important milestones. Finishes the year with a .270 average, 39 dingers, and 114 RBIs.
Yeah, 39 dingers is pretty crazy at this stage in his career.
Well, he's, 38,
yeah.
I think? Jeez Louise. They're AL West champs. He homered twice in the first game against the Twins, actually, in the ALDS. Hit 500 as they swept them. Also, he was the oldest player to have 2 home runs in a postseason, game 1. Although they're absolutely ass-blasted by the Tigers in the ALCS, you're thinking, Frank's getting close to some numbers here.
And he could keep this career going as a DH for a while. That's what was the thought, you know, especially like the way he was hitting. You were like, oh, yeah, he could do this for a minute.
Well, and he was a classic kind of designated hitter, like the first of the only ones. Like anything that Edgar Martinez said outside of maybe batting average, Frank Thomas broke, which eventually broken by Big Papi down the road. But 2007 signs a 2-year, $9 million deal per year with Toronto with an option for a third if he logs over 525 batting plate appearances in his second year. So in 2007, on June 28th, he reaches the 500 home run milestone with a home run against Carlos Silva in the Twins, which I thought was pretty outstanding. He also, later that year, in 2007, keeps building those numbers for a Hall of Fame resume, but Toronto's not very good at this point.
No, they're not.
2008, he has some issues with their manager, John Gibbons, and they end up sending him back to Oakland, where he finishes his career with the Athletics. But, Frank Thomas, pretty incredible career, I would say so. 5-time All-Star, 2-time MVP, 4 Silver Sluggers, and a batting title. And eventually ends up in Cooperstown.
Yeah, first ballot Hall of Famer, which I think is pretty appropriate for the the type of hitter he is, and if you look at his numbers, they're really only compared to Ruth, and just with all the walks and the, you know what I mean? Like, give me some stats, because
I know this one is pretty incredible. He's the only guy with 7 straight 300 batting average, 100 walk, 100 RBI, 20 homer seasons.
So it's like straight up every offensive category. He's just like, no, I did this for 7 years.
Outside of triples.
Yes, outside of triples. That's the only thing. That would be hilarious if you look it up and it's just a big goose egg on triples.
Between triples and stolen bases, I was going over the numbers, and I'm like, but that's just not the way he plays.
He was also huge on sacrifice flies.
Yeah.
He was one of the biggest sacrifice fly hitter of all time. And I love this record. He had 10,000 or whatever at bats without a single sacrifice bunt.
Yeah.
Because that's not the type of player.
You don't pay Frank Thomas to bunt and steal bases.
You're bunting with our cleanup hitter?
Are you fucking high?
Hey, Blondie, what's the signs?
This is the type of elite player he was, though. He's one of this group of players to have 500 homers, a career 300 batting average. Babe Ruth, Jimmy Fox, Mel Ott, Ted Williams, Willie Mays, and Hank Aaron. That's absolutely crazy. And
only one of that era of the 90s, you know what I mean?
But I should add, I believe Miguel Cabrera just entered that group a couple of weeks ago. So 2011, he has a statue put in U.S. Cellular Field because obviously greatest player in White Sox history. Finished his career with 521 home runs, 1,704 RBIs, and 1,667 walks. So he's averaging over 100, basically 100 a year.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. And a 974 career OPS. That includes down seasons in his late 30s, early 40s. So, yeah, the big hurt.
Yeah, definitely.
Pretty incredible.
One of the best offensive talents that we'll ever see. I distinctly remember watching him on WGN when they would play it, and then the home run derbies from that era.
He was a home run derby champion one year at an all-star game. I mean,
that's just like you have this stuff in your mind, and that's where I could always remember the big hurt with those black White Sox jerseys.
Oh, the pinstripes. The good guys wear black era.
Yes.
Robin Ventura getting the crap kicked out of him by Nolan Ryan.
Yes.
Those were good times,
It was
Chris.
fun. It was fun baseball. All right. Thank you all very much.